And I hate to say since the end of slavery, since it really hasn't ended. So this is a very pivotal summer for African people. We have to look at what we've done in 150 years since slavery. We got to look at what we've done in 60 years since school desegregation. We got to look at what we've done in 50 years of civil rights. And we got to look at what we've done in 100 years of revolutionary Pan-African Garveyism. So this is the summer of deep analysis and reflection. And going to your point of dealing with this colossal and gargantuan miseducation machine, the reason things are getting worse, Gus, is because white racism is coming back in its unbridled form. When the Civil Rights Bill was signed in 1964, white people collectively decided to put their silver fist in a velvet glove. In other words, the racism continued, but it was done in a more sophisticated manner. But with the Trayvon Martin situation, which the George Zimmerman acquittal, with the Hurricane Katrina, with the Michael Dunn situation, with all of these other racist acts that we're seeing, Donald Sterling, so forth and so on, the unprecedented unemployment rate of black folks, the unprecedented absence of black teachers from America's teaching staff, female teachers in particular, we're seeing racism come back to its pre-1964 fashion. And why is racism coming back in its pre-1964 or pre-civil rights fashion? Because white people see that black people aren't going to do a damn thing about anything we do. Remember, Brother Gus, whenever racism rose its ugly head against African people, I don't care if it was in slavery, I don't care if it was in Reconstruction, during the Garvey movement, Nation of Islam, Hebrews, Rasta, Black Power, Black Panther, whenever something happened, whenever there was an outcry against our people, we always did something, even if it was only demonstration. We came out collectively in a very large, well-organized force. Even if it was non-violently, we did something. Black people have gotten so consumed with themselves. Black people have gotten so hypnotized with the so-called post-racial America, which is one of the most devastating psychological weapons against black people, because as the world and as the American social order is plotting our extermination more now than ever before, isn't it ironic when we are so close to extermination that there's a campaign to make us feel that we are more American than we've ever been? And it takes me back to Master Teacher Nili Fowler, the elder, who talked about the various stages of white supremacy and how it establishes itself and maintains itself and expands itself and refines itself. And right now, Brother Gus, as we approach the middle of the 21st century, the second half of civil rights, what we're seeing is the refinement stage of white supremacy, which means that the new racism is to make it appear that there is no racism. In fact, we're being brainwashed by the television, the internet, the radio, and the TV, okay, and all other forms of media into believing that America is post-racial, and now the only issue that America has is sexism. And not only is it sexism, it's only sexism and discrimination against homosexuals and lesbians. So America is claiming that it solved its racial problem, and now the only thing left is to solve its homosexual problem, which takes us back to military science. What is the foundational law of military science? Confuse the victim and make your intentions appear to be something other than what they are. And that's why America spends $500 billion annually, $500 billion every year on mind control by way of its media misinformation machine. As I always say, why don't we have a totally black-owned movie studio in Hollywood. Why not? Why don't we have a black movie distribution company? Now, we have Tyler Perry, but he doesn't distribute his own movies. He goes to one of the white majors. The reason we don't have an independent black movie distribution company of that level is because they have to make sure they don't allow any movie to hit the theaters that will wake African people up. A dramatization of what we've been through. Now, we've had the documentary, very effective, Hidden Colors as well as others, but those are more intellectual. We're talking about a dramatization of the black experience that is so gut-wrenching, so heart-quenching, that it forces black people to wake the hell up and do something about their situation. They are suspending and expelling black children from school like it ain't no tomorrow. In fact, there was a study that was just done last month. United States Department of Education, Office of Civil Rights, did a comprehensive analysis of the state of public education in America. They looked at all 50 states, and they found exactly what I've been talking about in my book, Psychoacademic Holocaust. One of the most interesting findings of this report, Brother Gus, is that half of the high schools in America that serve a predominantly black student population, half of them do not offer a math class above Algebra 1. Now, most states require 4 years of math in order to get a diploma. Well, if you need 4 years of math in order to get a diploma, and your high school only offers Algebra 1 without Algebra 2, without calculus, without physics, without trig, you can't graduate. Now, why is this interesting, Brother Guts? Because we're always hearing people, including Negroes, and let me just throw this sidebar in. One of white supremacy's greatest victories over Africans is that it trained us to defend it. Let me say that again. White supremacy has trained Africans to defend white supremacy. You have never seen in the annals of world history a victimized population that will psychologically, of its own free will, come to the defense of its oppressor without being requested and without being paid. But black people do it every single day. In fact, rarely do I give a seminar, rarely am I on a radio show, a TV show, rarely do I write an article where I don't get a rebuttal, Brother Gus, not from white people, but from black people who are not even being paid to defend the system. They do it voluntarily. And so the reason the racism is back so strong is because white folks are looking out at black America, and they're saying, we own all these leaders. Jesse, we own him. Al, we own him. All the Afrocentric scholars work at white universities and love their job. They're not going to do nothing. Who do we have who commands the minds of the masses, who would be willing to stand up and challenge us for what we're doing to African people? Nobody. So the reason the racism is back is because there's no longer a need to hide, because black resistance is at an all-time low. Let me say it again. Black resistance to white supremacy is at an all-time low globally, Brother Gus. It is low in Europe. It is low in Asia. It is low in the Caribbean. It is low in Central and South America. It is low in Canada. It is low in Africa. It is low here. So white people smell blood. When you watch a good boxing match, when you look at Floyd Mayweather Jr., what does he do? For 10 rounds, he bounces around with his opponent, jabbing him up, jabbing him up, jabbing him up, wearing down his resistance slowly. That's what white folk been doing with black folks since the Civil Rights Bill. 1964, jabbing us up. 1974, jabbing us up. 1984, jabbing us up. 1994, jabbing us up. 2004, jabbing us up. Now we in the 8th round. What does Floyd Mayweather begin to do once he can tell that he didn't jab his opponent up enough that the opponent is punch drunk and can't even come to his senses? Now he delivers the knockout punch. And we are in the 9th round, Brother Gus. I would argue the 12th round. White folks smell. They believe they got us just where they want us, and so it's no longer to hide the racism because we got to get these niggas out of our country. That's where we are, sisters. We are in a state of crisis, and as I've said on previous shows with my brother Gus, the reason Obama was put in office was, number one, to recolonize Africa's resources, and number two, white supremacy, to give white supremacy 8 years to perfect its Negro extermination campaign under the cloak of post-racial America. Obama was put in there just long enough, 8 years, for them to perfect their African extermination machine, so that when Obama leaves office, irregardless of his replacement, whether it's Hillary Clinton, Governor Christie, Jeb Bush, they will be ready for the knockout blow. We are as responsible for our condition as is the white man, because your oppressor cannot oppress you without your participation. As my ancestor Frederick Douglass said, those who are whipped the easiest. Douglass, a slave at one time, said those who are whipped the easiest are whipped the most. And we are going to continue being whipped economically, whipped psychologically, whipped sociologically, whipped culturally, whipped sexually, whipped in every other way, until we begin to stand up and fight our oppressor just like Frederick Douglass did 150 years ago.